All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, we are live in full effect with one of the best hip hop artists, in my opinion, of all time. We got the one, the only Trick Daddy on the line. How are you doing this evening?
What's happening, my boy?
I'm doing pretty good, man.
Man,
I'm
watching
doing.
this heat,
Oh, sorry, was that?
watching this heat game against Boston. They trying to whistle whoop us.
Most definitely, man. I first and foremost got to say, Trick, thank you so much for taking the time of your evening in advance and coming on the radio station. I've been a fan for a long time, man, so thank you so much. But I know you're a busy guy, so I'm going to jump right into this interview. But I got to ask you, what made you decide to get into the music industry initially?
Oh man, it was that back into the dope man. I wasn't trying to go back to the chain game. That was too easy. I initially I figured I could always rap or do music, but when I actually went in the booth, I realized, yeah, this him. You feel me? So I said, okay, I'm gonna try something different. It was kind of weird at first, but hey, man, 2.5 decades later, I appreciate the move I made.
And most definitely, man, you are solidified within hip hop history, man. You've made classic record after classic record, man. It doesn't get any better than that.
I try to get the people, saying good music, and I'm currently working on a new album now. I think my last album, and it is, the new wave come in, so I do this last album, get on out their way, let them do their thing. But I appreciate it. They call my music classic music because it's forever music, and that's what I always wanted to make forever music, never be forgotten in the game. Because back in the day, it was coming out of Miami, they didn't want to hear nothing but unless it was about some robbing, killing, some drugs, or some girls, and you had to rap about that on the fast booty beats, and I kind of like took it to another level with my mellow like versions and songs like Doug Holiday and I'm a Thug to slow it down and let them know that we have talented lyrics too in Miami.
And also, like taking you way back, this is probably gonna bring back some memories for you. But in '96, you actually appeared on Two Live Crew's Luke Campbell's album Uncle Luke on the track "Scared." I have to ask you, how did you get connected with Luke, and what was it like actually debuting on his record?
It was big. Actually, it was. I know Luke. We grew up. I'm saying on Luke and around Luke and things. So it was big. So we actually had to get in a situation where we had to. It was like 50 dudes battling for that spot. You know what I'm saying? So I had to compete against all those guys to make it in there. When I heard the record he wanted me to do, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it this way. He said, what to do it? I'll listen to it when you done. When I did it, he was like, that's it. And he made it in single at the time. So that helped me tremendously to get my situation in the dope. And then from there, I just spoke my life and what I saw, my vision, and how I saw it through my eyes and the streets of how I was raised and how I grew up.
And also, especially in the mid to early '90s, Two Live Crew was actually huge. You know what I mean? They were actually they were doing a big thing back in the day.
Yeah, I mean they caused a big controversy. They the one went to court for the bad in the USA thing, and one Broward County and sheriff Nick Navarro at the time was trying to arrest them and ban them, charge them with obscenity, and they reminded everybody about the freedom of speech. It gave us all our rights in the music game to say what we wanted to say, how we wanted to say it, and you know what I'm saying. So as a kid growing up in Miami, we idolized Two Live and what they did.
And also in '97, you actually released your debut album, titled "Based on a True Story." I have to ask you, what's the actual story behind that record? And of course, what was it like actually recording that amazing debut record?
The story behind that record was to let everybody know me from the beginning. I had to let them know where I was coming from, and get them to know who I was and what I was going through. So from there, it was like the introduction of who I am, or how I was going to present myself to the people. And that title there is self-explanatory, where I talked about a lot about going to prison at a younger age and losing my brother while in prison, and just the struggle. And that opened eyes, but that still it took for the next album, which came out yesterday, 22 years ago, with www.thug.com, which had the record on there that changed my life for good was the Nan record, where we finally got played on the West Coast and up north and in the Midwest when they wasn't playing our music on radio there. So that opened a lot of doors for me, and like I say, changed my life.
And 22 years, man, that seems like yesterday, to be honest with you. It's crazy how time really flies.
Oh yeah, and a lot of things have changed. They making way more money now than we made then. And you know, a lot of the young generations have access to the music. When we did rap music, you had to actually have fans, people who actually loved you, not just liked your song or like how you look. They had to actually love you to go in the store and buy your record. You don't too much hear about platinum albums no more. You know what I'm saying? They get paid off screenings and all other things now, and they getting like 3-4 times the money we got for shows. But you gotta respect the game. Where time change, and I give my utmost respect to the new young generation.
And I actually remember back in the day actually going to Music World here in Canada and actually buying the brand new copy of Thugs R Us, man. You know what I mean? So I know exactly what you're talking about. People really had to go in and buy your record, man. Nowadays it's like you can just hear a song on YouTube and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna download it." Guy, the kids nowadays don't understand. You actually had to get off the couch to go buy a record.
Right. And then you want to read, so you featured on the record and read the inserts, and you put exclusive pictures and all type of things in a different way. If I sold records at Target, Specs was the thing back then. FYI, one of those any other kind of mom and pop store, where the big stores did it. Where I did a song, I did an album. Target released my album. Target had two extra songs, bonus songs on their version, and Specs had another song or two bonus on their version, and you know that what made some people when they got the two, because they like, I don't got that song on my album. What you got that? So they used to call like, why my album ain't got this song? I was like, yeah, that's a bonus track. And they look at it and said bonus track at the bottom, and according to where you got it from, you got that song.
Yeah, especially some of those albums too back in the day. The bonus tracks were hidden. You had to wait until your CD plays out to the very end of the last song, and then you never know, a song might play like a minute after after you thought your CD ended.
Right, right, because those are stuff. They first they want to separate it for reasons of the credits. Now, see, some songs now, one verse, two hooks, and one verse. When we had a minimum of two verses and a minimum of three hooks to even make a song. Now some songs are a minute long, a minute and 12 seconds. Our songs are 2:45 and 3 minutes long, and that played a big part. So if you wasn't a real fan, you ain't listened to that CD from the beginning to the end. You ain't know that song was on there.
And also in the year 2000, Trick, you actually were signed to Atlantic Records, and I have to ask you, how did yourself get connected with Atlantic Records? Because back then, Atlantic Records was a really huge label to be a part of.
They just liked what we were doing, and they saw my vision. They let me be me, and they promised me not to be me. And I promised them that I wasn't going to jail. And I had to my hand at the party, and we went from there. And they had wonderful people working there, and good relationships. And we had to actually go out and meet the people and go out and do a promo run where these kids don't do promo runs. They get a hot record and they go on out and do shows.
And also going back to like the Thugs R Us record, one of my personal favorite tracks off that record is actually "I'm a Thug." And I know you probably get asked this a lot because it's one of your biggest songs, but I have to ask you, what was it like actually recording and doing that video, man? Like I've always wanted to ask you that because that song still gets played on my MP3 player, man. Like it just came out yesterday.
I actually didn't believe that. I didn't believe that they were gonna let me release that as a single. When they told me that, I was like, yes. Because every time I got ready to do a song before I finish it, they be like, well, this missing something. Even with the narrator, I was like, no, this is it. This how it's gonna go. It's gonna go just like this. And I always use God bless the dead, my godmom, the great late Miss Betty, right? And I use all her kids all the time. And I remember we was talking about it before she passed, how they was doing a special on MTV and they was giving Jay-Z props for producing the kids on the record, and we just laughed because I was like, I guess they didn't really respect me on that level, being that I was from the South, but I had kids on all my albums singing the hook and participating in the song and actually did songs for the kids. But that's cool because I don't need character references. I reach the people who I thought need to be reaching out that represent to the fullest. You know what I'm saying? So I was cool with that. I even said on the one song, they ain't got to nominate me and give me my props. And even though I had all those platinum albums, all those double, triple platinum singles, and all those hits back to back, I never got nominated for big award shows. I never got nominated. I just laughed. I laughed to the point where we started making bets on who was going to get nominated. And we figured out where that was coming from. You know, a lot of when you look at the East Coast at that time, they was considered as the mecca of music for a long time. Then came the West Coast with Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Dogg Pound. They finally came up and made the West Coast back popular since the NWA days, because the West Coast was like so big and supportive of the artists and coming from the West. They could sell platinum records right in California or any other Western state, and they didn't need nobody else. And sometimes we didn't even hear these or know these platinum artists. But come from the South, we had to spread our hustle and first get that radio play. So I'm a Thug. I think I snuck that one in on them.
And I'm gonna say this though, when you said you never got nominated for any awards or anything like that, I gotta say you most definitely should have. And the reason why I say this because I remember hearing back in the day that Thugs R Us actually sold like over 100,000 units in the first, I believe it was the first week release. Like that right there is award worthy, man. Because not a lot of hip hop artists really do that.
Right, and that was the thing. And even though I didn't understand it and the importance of that part, breaking sales and all that, I learned to understand it, and it became a little frustrating at times. But hey, I don't need character references or nothing like that. Well, I live my life and I describe my life, and I tell them, they always say, well, Trey, what you want to be remembered as? And I tell them, well, I want my legacy to say is I had a wonderful time.
And also, your hit single "Let's Go" was actually produced by Little John and featured Twista. I have to ask you, how did you get connected with Little John and Twista? Because back in the mid 2000s, Little John and Twista were huge to actually just to do work with.
Well, I had already did a record that was on my second or third album. I had already did a record with Twista that I was a big fan, and I never went and got the hottest artist. I never went and got the hardest artist to do my feature. I went and got dudes that I listened to, grew up listening to Scarface, Twister, Mystical, those, Latasha Skiles, Doug Holiday. Those were the people I did my features with. Because when I wrote that record, I had them in mind. I visioned them on that record.
And also, jumping ahead a little bit, Trick, I also noticed that you actually appeared in the film Just Another Day as the character Roman. I have to ask you, what was it like actually taking part in that movie and being an actor? And of course, how did you land that role?
They was looking for something real, and I was authentic at the time, and just like small role, but I hope one day to do. I see there's a lot of mini series, a lot of series about different parts of the world, and I just always wanted to do one. So now I'm working to write a mini series about Miami without shaking anybody up, without turning over caskets, or without like dry snitching on nobody that's locked up and that's hoping to get out one day on appeal or something. But just something to show them how we was raised and how we did things in the street.
And I do have to say, you did a phenomenal job on that role as well. I remember having that film actually on DVD, and I really did like the way you acted, man. I really do hope that down the line, us fans can see you in more motion picture movies.
That's probably one of my last dreams that I haven't ever completed. But I tell you what, I'm not gonna play murder on the new sitcom. I'm not gonna play the dude murder on the new sitcom, and I'm not wearing no dresses. Any guy want to wear dresses, it's fine with me, but I'm not wearing none.
I don't blame you. You know what I mean? There's some roles you take, but there's some roles where you're like, nah, man, let some other sucker do that.
And that's my main thing, man. That they disrespected me in this game. I think I gained a lot of respect. I have a lot of people that still come up to me today, say how they grew up to my music, how my music inspired them. And I just like, and they even did my aunt's song, and I said I'm not even gonna say that because it's gonna sound like I'm bitter, so I never even touched on that. Basically, I just let the people. I let them talk to and interview whoever they want to interview, who's ever familiar with my life and my music career, and that's how we end up doing my song. But I feel like it's an incomplete story, really. So I'm reaching out to them and say, okay, we need to do this over.
And I also saw, Trick, that you were actually working on your own line of cooking products. I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about that. And of course, how can our listeners go about buying some of your products as well?
I recently opened a restaurant Sunday, one of the hottest restaurants out now, and the people, what people didn't know is that we actually came up with our own blend of seasoning and made it our own seasoning and had it produced by a big popular seasoning company, and I decided to bottle the seasoning and sell it, and it's doing well. Sundays is his name still after the restaurant. I promise to expand the restaurant, take one in New York, one in Atlanta, and then LA, and I think from there the food's so good that I think I could probably work it for the rest of my life based on that. Ain't a nice publishing check.
And also, due to this COVID-19 situation that's currently going on, is your restaurant still open, or like or is it closed just for the COVID?
Yeah, I mean, I've changed the closure times. Nobody can come in, but by the grace of God, we are able to still be open and relevant.
I just wanted to touch base on that because we got a lot of listeners all over the world, and I do know that we do have some listeners in the Miami area. That's why I wanted to ask that as well. That way, they can listen to this interview and be like, "Okay, he's still open. We can still get some grub."
Yeah, we wide open. We wide open. We call it Sundays where you can get Sunday meals 6 days in a week, and we close on Tuesday.
And I also read as well that you were actually titled the Hood Proclaimed Mayor of Miami. If you don't mind me asking, how did you actually get that title?
I didn't hear you. I was titled what?
Oh, sorry. I also read that you are the Hood Proclaimed Mayor of Miami. I was wondering, how did you get that title?
Yeah, because this is my town. This is my town. I believe this. I'm a Dolphin, Hurricane, Miami Heat, Marlins, Panthers fan. Anything else that's civilized.
And so, Trick Daddy, I got to ask you, when you brought up earlier about how you have a new record coming out, if you don't mind me asking, what can our listeners expect from your brand new record? And of course, what's the estimated release date for that?
Well, I don't know. I just started working on it. I'm probably like 4 tracks in, which ain't gonna take long to finish. But I just want to just get him real live Trick Daddy. But man, this one's for my fans. This is strictly for my fans, and I keep 2 or 3 songs kid friendly. But other than that, I've been doing radio now. Me and Trina actually have a morning show on Miami radio station. And between that, the restaurant, and TrickDaddyStore.com, I'm good.
Most definitely keeping busy. You know what I mean? COVID-19 can't hold Trick Daddy down. Let's put it like that.
You better believe it.
So I gotta ask you, Trick Daddy, what's next for you? Other than the radio, the restaurant, the new record you're working on, is there anything else I happened to miss during this interview that you still want to promote with our live audience? Will we still have you here live on the air?
No, I just want all this foolishness that's going on with racial profiling and racial injustice by the police and other people, and I need the politicians to do their job, and I need the police to try to avoid altercations where they have to reach for their gun and know that we need them and we pay them with our tax money, and their job are to protect and serve, and I shouldn't be scared and afraid when I see them. I should be happy to see a police. You know what I'm saying? And I just need everybody to get home. When they say the younger generation is killing each other at a high rate, I tell them quick, like, those are our kids. And I'm not saying y'all are our kids, but we need to get all our kids, and we need to know what our kids got going on. So we don't have to be on the news saying, oh, my baby ain't never messed with nobody. You don't know your kid. You don't know what your kid was involved in. So after that, man, I'm good, man.
So, Trick Daddy, this is the time in the interview that I give a chance for the individual that comes on the radio station. Just a chance to give shoutouts to whomever they want to give shoutouts to. And of course, if you can, drop your social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you if they're not already doing so. But you're the legendary Trick Daddy, so I really do hope they hit that follow button already.
Well, you already know my Facebook is Maurice Trick Daddy Young, or Maurice Young. My Instagram is Trick Daddy Dollar. And I just want to give a shout out to all the boys doing time in the county jail, the state penitentiary, the federal penitentiary. Everybody that's out on bond, on the run. Everybody that's in the struggle, because everybody else already doing fine. They don't need no help and shout out.
And I gotta say, Trick Daddy, quickly, thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening and coming on 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM. Honestly, I've been a fan for a long time, and it was truthfully an honor. And I hope down the line we can make this happen again. But for now, I'm looking forward to your new record. And of course, stay safe out there in Miami during this terrible pandemic.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, man.
You are most certainly welcome, Trick Daddy. Have yourself a wonderful night.